This video is about how to structure a response to the language analysis question for the Cambridge assessment. Now, language analysis is a challenge, and to go about it in a way that's thorough and insightful takes a lot of practice. But in today's lesson or video, I'm going to show you one way that's guaranteed to help you make sure that you meet the criteria of the marking scheme. To structure your analysis in this way, you'll look at one, specific words or phrases, but in this case, we're going to look at specific words that have a large impact in the text. And then you're going to look at describing what is their meaning, what meaning is gotten across by the use of that word, why that word was used in the specific context of the text, and finally, what effect that word choice created within the text. So let's look at a student example that demonstrates this structure really well. This example relates to this text, "In the company of wolves." And because context is so important for language analysis, I'm going to go ahead and read the whole text to you. It's going to take a few minutes. If you're already familiar with the text, feel free to skip ahead to the student response part. But if not, I suggest listening along so that you understand the context of the text for a better understanding of how the student came up with their specific analysis of it. In the company of wolves. The writer is a journalist who is reviewing an unusual stay at Aurora Park in the north of Norway. I drive past piled up snow and stopped by the darkened log cabin. No one comes out of reception. I check the park's website on my phone, experience Arctic nature up close, live amongst our rare semi-wild wolves at the ultra-exclusive Wolf Lodge, revel in the unique feeling of being watched by curious amber eyes, be part of a new story for these marvelous, mythical, misunderstood creatures. I extinguish the car lights and step out into the freezing air, just as a snowplow comes up the road, driven by my devoted host and wildlife expert, headkeeper Stig Hansen. "Follow me in your car," Stig says softly. "At the top, when we get out, don't make sudden movements or noises." The snow-plowed track leads us between two reassuringly high fences trimmed with electric wire. I leave the car by a gate in the fence, beyond which a tunnel leads up to a brightly lit lodge on a small, snowy hill. The purpose of that tunnel, I know, is to access the lodge without the inhabitants of the enclosure accessing me. Then the howling starts, a long, primal cry that reaches deep into the mind, evoking shivers of excitement. An answering howl draws Stig's attention. Sometimes I think there are not just ours out there. From the edge of extinction, wolves are making a comeback in Europe, bringing with them a cascade of biodiversity and environmental health. Stig's team monitors wolves living in some of the largest enclosures among animal parks in the world. His wolf visits were established to ensure better welfare for wolves in captivity and to offer humans a unique, life-changing experience. Many wolves in captivity, unfamiliar with people, are fearful and live in stressful conditions. Many people fear wolves. The wolves at Aurora Park are accustomed to human contact and enjoy human company as part of their natural environment. Dedicated animal keepers guide you into the enclosure, where you will meet these extraordinary creatures of fairy tales face to face. That's why I am here, to join a group staying the night inside the wolf enclosure in this secluded valley and hopefully make contact. I say hopefully, as no matter the eye-watering expense of the experience, wolves, it seems, are not to be relied upon. "Be very slow and steady," Stig reminds us, lighting the fire to prepare supper. "Wolves can get excited. We don't allow under-18s to meet them. If the wolves knock you over, keep calm and wait for the keepers to move them away." From inside the plush mountain lodge, I've been promised a view of the northern lights. I peer out of the large viewing windows. As my eyes adjust to the light, I see a green glow. At first, just smudges that grow, forming a cosmic phantom that flutters, swirls, and moves mysteriously across the vast sky. Surfacing from the depths of the darkness, we hear a sudden, vicious wolf fight. "Siblings working out their hierarchy," says Stig casually. "We don't interfere." We finish dinner in eerie silence, gazing at a shimmering white moon. Silhouetted against it are the swift shadows of running wolves. Next morning, emboldened by a hearty breakfast, Stig and I venture out and immediately spot the wolf pack loping eagerly towards us. They jump up excitedly, licking our faces. Two of them have a snarling standoff over who should lick me first, but then agree to lick my camera instead. Apart from that one moment, it's all remarkably non-threatening. We stroll to a low, snow-covered hill where they do a bit of a howl and hold a wrestling contest. Only when I drop my phone is there a sudden intimation of what can happen. They are instantly curious and pushy, flooded with predatory instincts and the power of the pack. Moving slowly, I retrieve my phone and retreat to a respectful distance. Cute they may be, but cuddly toys they are not. All right, now with the text firmly in our minds, let's walk through the student response. Here's the question. It asks us to look at paragraph 9 and paragraph 10 and choose the language that conveys meaning and effect in these paragraphs. Now, I'll point out at this moment right here, in the question itself, it gives you the structure for the response we're talking about today. It first says meaning, and then it says effects. And the response we're looking at now literally takes that structure and uses it to make a thorough response. So paragraph 9 and 10 are the last two paragraphs from this text. It's about being in the mountain lodge and then the one-on-one experience with the wolves. So let's read through what this student does and take a moment to pause and point out how she follows the structure. So her response begins, in paragraph 9, the author illustrates the beautiful scenery of the outside world from the comfort of their lodge with the use of imagery. So we have some context for the discussion she's going to have about the paragraph and the language in it. The word smudges, used by the author in this paragraph, invokes our sight imagery, and it is used to describe something that is shapeless with no definite form, like a stain. So here we have the meaning behind the word. We have our word choice. The author uses this to show how the northern lights in the sky transitioned from being small, stain-like entities in the sky to a dazzling display that painted the night sky. Okay, now we have why the author used this word coupled with the effect that it has. It makes the night sky, it makes it seem dazzling. Begins smudge-like and then moves to dazzling. Notice also, this isn't part of what we're talking about, but it is related, that the student clearly points out the use of imagery. That's also important. Okay, let's look at the next word they choose. The word vast, used by the author, is used to convey the idea of just how incomprehensibly large and wide the sky was. So this is the literal meaning of what vast conveys within the context of this text. The author uses this word to create the effect of being inspired and shows us just how immaculate the sky is. All right, so that is the effect. It is inspiring and shows that the sky is immaculate. The phrase eerie silence used in this paragraph means the area was noiseless, which gave off an unsettling and strange ambiance. The author uses this to show how unusual an area full of wild wolves was actually quiet. There's a missing word here, or two. How unusual an area full of wild wolves was actually being quiet. So the idea here being it's unusual for it to be quiet if there are all these wolves out there. It creates the effect of tension and unease, especially unsettling, which one would not be able to feel comfortable in. All right, so we have the meaning, why it's used in context, and again, the effect. We'll move to paragraph 10, and you'll notice that the student keeps the same structure to thoroughly explain each word. In paragraph 10, the author illustrates how instant the once non-threatening, lighthearted interaction with the wolves almost became non-existent, showing us the feeling of tension. So this is an overview of the paragraph in general. Again, the wording is a little bit, it's got some things that could be clearer, but it's just saying how quickly the paragraph went from friendly to tense. The author uses the word emboldened to show that they became full of confidence that was not present in the first place. It means to be enabled or empowered. So this is the meaning. Thus creates the effect of newfound strength. So where's the context? The context comes in where she says, became full of confidence that was not present in the first place. So this shows how the author's feelings are changing within the context of the story, and thus this word choice is important to our understanding. Okay. The author also uses the word remarkably to show how surprising the wolves being calm was. It means something that stands out, which has to be said or commented on. So she's talking about the meaning of remarkably, which creates the effect of astonishment and surprise. And now we have effect. All right. The word flooded used in this paragraph means the act of something overflowing or engulfing an entity. So this is the meaning. The author uses this word to show the degree of how wild the wolves became. This is our context. So exactly why the word was used in this specific context. And finally, the effect. It was used by the author to illustrate how the wolves' thoughts were engulfed by nature. Oh, still context. This creates the effect of fear by the author to show how the wolves instantly went from playful and calm in a matter of seconds. So we're missing a little something here. They went from playful and calm to aggressive or vicious or dangerous or threatening. Would be fine. But even though she didn't complete the idea was implied with what she said, it's still a good response. Now, the only thing I'll say about this that you want to watch out for is your word count. So this student wrote roughly 370 words, and the max is 300 words. So she pretty much ran out of words here on the second page, and which means she got her first two points from paragraph 10. But if the examiners wanted to be strict, they might not read past that 300, in which case her last point would not be considered. But you know what? Honestly, that's not as big a problem as you might assume, because throughout, she's done a good job of demonstrating her understanding of language, mentioning imagery, clearly explaining how the words work within context and the effects that they have. So overall, it would still be a strong response even if that last word was not counted. Okay, so now let me demonstrate to you this process in action. On the screen, you will see an excerpt from a memoir written by an author about their youth, and it's going to be focusing on their mom's rather unique vehicle that she had. I'll read it to you, and I'm going to pick out one word from it, and then I'm going to use the same strategy that we've been talking about to analyze language. So, if Mama's lime green car had crashed into a marshmallow, it would have crumpled like an accordion. Its flimsiness was obvious as soon as it was in motion. On sharp bends, it listed to port or starboard. It felt like sitting in a bowl of custard. Fortunately, the squealing engine was incapable of reaching any great speeds. The gear stick, a uniquely designed metal lever embedded in the dashboard, looked as if it belonged in the control panel of a flying saucer. The aluminum-framed seats bit savagely into your flesh. Sleeping stretched out on the back seat felt like lying on a bed of nails. but Mama's car was a noble beast. It never failed her. Okay, so let's pick out bit savagely. I'm going to take that phrase and demonstrate that this can work for a phrase as well as for just individual words. So what is our word? What is our phrase? A bit savagely. All right. Okay. 55 words, not bad. I could probably take off the last part, who is helpless to do anything about it, and be well under the words I need. And if I did 5 more just like that, we'd be just at 300 words. So very quickly, to bite something savagely means to really bite hard and without mercy. That is our explanation, definition of the words there. The term bit savagely demonstrates how painfully uncomfortable the seats of his mother's car were, especially the metal framing. That is why the author used that phrase within the context of the text. And finally, the effect of this personification is that of a mean and merciless beast attacking the writer, who is helpless to do anything about it. And there we have followed the structure to have a clear and well-described explanation of what is going on in the text and why the author used the language they use. Okay, just as one final review of the key concepts here, in order to structure your response for the language analysis question in this fashion, you want to do 3 things after you've chosen your word. You want to describe the meaning of that word or phrase. You want to explain why the author used it within the context of the text. And then you want to explain what effect it created within that text.